Oh, welcome to the BroJ Podcast.
That's the name we settled on.
We've settled.
I think it
Um,
works.
I'm your OJ.
I'm your bro.
hmm Uh,
Also Brandon.
also Brandon. He's two different people.
I'm two people on this podcast, the bro and the Brandon. The Brandon is silent in the name.
Bro, the silent Brandon. No,
Yeah.
please don't be silent.
Just go mute on you for the rest of the podcast.
He's just nodding. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That'd work
Uh,
well.
I had an idea of what to talk about.
Okay. Bring it.
And it's about childhood trauma.
That's always a wonderful topic to talk about, especially in an open public forum.
Let's turn this into a therapy session.
Oh boy, I need lots of that.
Well, I was looking for something to watch, a movie to watch yesterday while I was quote unquote working.
Uh-huh.
And I came across the Scream movies. Have you ever watched any of the Scream movies?
I have not. I'm not a huge fan of the get scared movies.
Okay. See, once I become an adult, and there's a debate on when that happens, but I think
Yeah,
at some point I became an adult.
at some point.
I started to crave like horror movies and scary movies and like just that thrill of getting scared. And I've watched lots of scary movies, and I feel like it's just getting harder and harder to find something that scares me.
Fair.
But the Scream movies, I watched Scream 2 and Scream 3. There's like 5 or 6 of them or something.
Okay.
And they were actually like comedies. It was like a satire comedy, like they're joking, making fun of scary movies. And I never got that as a kid. I never understood that part of it.
Well, there's a movie called Scary Movie, isn't there? That's the whole joke of the movie is it's making fun of the horror movie
Right.
genre.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Scream was actually doing that too.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
maybe that's just my own opinion, but it just was very laughable, and it's like they were making fun of.
Well, I wonder if it's
Things.
one of those instances, because I've come across this before, where they were the first one to do the classic scary movie thing, and it just got made fun of so much that it became like a joke, but they were actually the first ones to do it. And so when it first came out, it was an actual scary thing and was new, but it's become such a joke that people could go back and watch it, think that it's like, I wonder if it's something like that or if they were actually making fun of it. Because you go back and watch like
Right.
old westerns or old like murder mystery type shows, and there's tons of stuff like that all over the place where they were like kind of the first shows to like do X, and it just got made fun of and talked about so much over the years that it's like you watch this like, what are they joking around for, or like,
And like turns out they probably were just joking, but it gets taken way too seriously.
possibly, or they were serious and it just got turned into such a joke that you
Oh.
can't take it seriously anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I wonder if Scream was doing that, or if, when did the Screams come out? They're not that old, are they?
Very old. The first one came out when I was in an elementary school, and I was trying to think I was about 10 years old actually. We
Okay.
could just look this up, huh? Because we have the internet.
We have the technology.
No. Wait, did they remake Scream? Why does
Oh,
it say
possibly.
Scream 2022? Is that real?
Well, Scream did come
Shut
out
up.
recently.
I think they remade it. I didn't even know that. Okay. 1996 was the first one.
Oh, okay.
96. How old was I in 96? How do you do that?
How do you do the
1996
math?
minus 1984? 12 years old? Okay. So I was in 6th grade. I was like in elementary school, but like older in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was around 10, but 12 makes sense. So I have a story to tell about it.
Okay, go for it.
So Well, there's inappropriate trailers on my screen. Hang on. So it was very distracting. Going to IMDb, and you know how sometimes they start having trailers of stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's just
Uh,
hang
close that for a minute. Oh, that's funny.
on. Okie dokie. So where I lived was a very, very safe neighborhood.
Hmm.
I grew up in like it's like a gated community. There wasn't an actual gate, but there was like a guard near the entrance.
Hmm.
Um, so it's that kind of neighborhood, right? And the street I lived on was I later on I've measured it, and it's about a half a mile long. I lived at the very end of the street, but my best friend growing up lived down at the very end of the street, so we were about a half a mile away. Took me a few minutes to walk there,
Hmm.
as a kid. Uh, so my friend, he had a twin sister, and so their birthday parties were off the hook. Like there's tons of boys, tons of girls. It was a blast. And they had a house to hold these, and there was enough space for everyone. It was just lots of fun. Well,
Hmm.
at his birthday party this year, when Scream came out, um, it was getting late. It was past 9 o'clock, and we were just starting the movie.
Hmm.
And if you don't know, one of the premises is that the Scream guy, he starts calling these girls. He's like, "What's your scary movie? How would you like to die?" Starts asking these creepy things. They find out that he's calling from inside the house, and then he
Hmm.
murders them.
Okay, gotcha.
So, uh, the first scene is like this teenage girl and like whatever. This is happening. The phone rings, and we're like, "Oh, really scared." We're little 12-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And so it was super intense. It's a rated R movie. We shouldn't have been watching it.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the scene, like it's starting to get really intense where this first girl, like she's about to get it. Like she called her boyfriend over. He comes over, but he gets murdered and strung up in the front yard from their tree, and like it shows it. And it was like terrifying.
Yeah.
And then the phone in the house rang. And 20 little kids go, ah! We start panicking. The phone in the house was ringing. Um, and we paused the movie.
Hmm.
His mother answered the phone and goes, "OJ, it's for you." And I'm like, "Oh no, 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 no!" I
You're the one
was
being
so scared.
sacrificed next.
Yeah, I know. Like, so I go to the phone, and I'm thinking it's this murderer, right?
Yeah.
Like, as a kid, your mind's just going crazy. And it's my mom. She goes, "You have to come home now. It's too late. It's getting really late." I'm like, "But we were just starting to watch a movie," and I didn't tell her what movie it was.
Of course.
And she wouldn't have it. I had to go home.
Oh no.
And so I got up the phone and said, "Yeah, I have to go home. I have to walk home. It's a
Oh,
half a mile walk
by
up the street
yourself.
by myself in the dark." And even though I literally knew every single person that lived on the street and I could recognize them, and like we
Uh-huh.
are in the safest neighborhood, my mind went crazy. Because like we had lots there, everyone had pine trees in their front yard. There's tons of shadows cast over like the
Hmm.
road. And like that was the most terrifying walk home of my entire life. I remember
Yeah.
just stepping out the door, putting on my shoes, and like every single step, I had the chills. Like I just like my whole body quaked, and very slowly, step by step, just made it up. And like I remember watching shadows and like freaking out, and like I didn't think to just run for it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awful.
And so to
Oh,
this day, I've never seen Scream One again. I won't watch it again because I want to maintain that memory of it.
yeah, yeah.
It was like that was the most ultimate terrified I've ever been in my entire life, and I cherish that memory now. It's like that's
Hmm.
like a high I try to get to every time I watch a scary movie.
Okay. Fair
So
enough.
yeah, yesterday watching Scream 2 and Scream 3, I was like, all right, let's see if we can get scared. And they're just stupid.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a little bit of a letdown, but
You ought to check out the new one that I guess is a remake because I remember hearing good things about it. Like people who enjoy the scary movies and stuff like that seem to like the show. So maybe it
Yeah,
was
I'm
a
gonna
good
try
faithful
this
remake.
today.
That's what you're doing after the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So, have you ever had like a childhood experience where you were like just the most terrified, or
I mean,
ever scared by something, or something that traumatic that sort of stuck with you that you want to talk about?
one that can be talked about.
Uh-huh.
Let's see here. I have had like similar instances of like because it is amazing how like a neighborhood and as soon as it gets dark, that neighborhood is somehow 10 times scarier and like completely foreign as a kid. Because I
Yeah.
have had to do that where um I think it was a similar thing where I was like at a sleepover and for some reason wasn't able to actually do the sleepover part and just had to come home as it was
Yep.
like pitch black. And my neighborhood had this weird acoustic thing. I don't know if many other neighborhoods have this, but
Oh,
we were next to the mountains where if you dropped a ball on the pavement, whether it was a basketball, anything, you would get this insane ricochet of sound bouncing off the homes in the mountain coming right back at you. I don't know if it was actually coming off the mountain. That's just what I speculated as a kid. And
yeah.
I've just never looked into figuring out what else it could be. But essentially you'd always get like these double sounds anytime someone was like dribbling a basketball or kicking a soccer ball or even one of the larger like rubber balls that you do like for kickball or whatever. And so I was coming home I was walking home from my friend's house and to get from that person's house to my house there's a massive steep hill where like if it snowed no car was getting up that hill. Didn't matter what kind of tires on or whatever. It was that steep of a hill. And you could just it was one of those ones where you very clearly can't see what's coming up over that hill until it's coming
Oh.
down at you.
Oh yeah.
And I remember just being like spooked out of my mind looking at all the shadows like you were. And then I start hearing that like ricochet sound. And my mind is instantly going to some serial killers up at the top of the hill. And it was just some kid playing basketball and he lost control of the basketball and it started coming down the hill. I
It's like
screamed.
bouncing, like
And
bump,
it
bump,
was
bump,
coming
bump, bump,
after
bump, bump,
me.
bump.
Whatever it was, which I think at that moment I thought was an animal because that happens in my neighborhood. Like we'd have mountain lions and like bobcats just like be in people's backyards. And you'd have to call animal control. So I thought something was coming after me and went screaming back to my friend's house, and my mom had to drive the like 100 feet to come get me. It was so close, but as like that tiny little kid, it freaked me out. And that's probably
Yeah.
as a kid, that's probably the most freaked out I've been. As
That's pretty spooky.
as
Yeah.
an adult, I've had some spooky moments out like in the woods
Oh.
where I kind of thought I was actually gonna maybe be eaten by something, but those were all like kind of real dangers, not
It's
like
like
in my
actually.
head. Like waking up and being I can't begin to tell you how many times I've woken up and been surrounded by like a pack of coyotes and stuff like that.
Oh, camping and stuff, and like just hearing stuff
Camping.
outside, and like you just hear the footprints everywhere. You're
You
like,
can hear them talking to like the coyotes will talk to each other as they're like so you can it's really crazy because you've got the one that's in charge of the pack and he's like up on the hillside barking out orders to everybody else and you can hear him like respond and stuff like that as they're like slowly surrounding you and it was really freaky. And the one that was most freaked out is me and my family went up to a spot we normally me and my dad and his buddies would go up hunting. We just went during a different time of the year and like stayed at the same campsite and had fun and did the marshmallows and everything. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna bring my hammock camping gear. And so and it worked well. It kept me warm and everything. But we had a really big pack surround us, and the whole time I'm sitting there in my hammock, I'm like, I'm just in a nice, yummy to go bag for whatever's going for me. And so I'm just sitting there in my bag, going, just so exposed. Because at least in the tent, you have like that kind of fake wall security.
yeah, uh
It
huh.
was it was bad. Like
You're just a hanging bag of meat.
I eventually had to get out of the bag, and I actually saw my dad just like sitting out in the middle of our campsite with his handgun, just like making sure nothing like made a move on us. And so I just like, okay, I'll watch this direction, you watch this direction, because I can't sleep in my bag because I feel like they're gonna come and grab me and just like a bear's gonna come just like grab one string, grab the other string, and just like walk off with me.
Throw you over his shoulder.
Yeah. So that was probably the most freaked out I've been, but like for a real legit reason.
Wow. Yeah, that's scary. Yeah, actual animals in the wild, man. I told you the one story last week, but I'll repeat it here. Where like I was in high school and I was with a group of friends. We're gonna go up the canyon
Mm-hmm.
and just do a little fire pit, hang out. Right? It sounded very low key. Um, we parked at the bottom of the canyon because like there's limited parking. You had to pay to get
Mm-hmm.
into this part, like per car or whatever. So we carpooled up this canyon. And we get there. There was a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, no adult supervision. They started doing stupid stuff like throwing water balloons full of gasoline at the fire. And I remember watching like one of them did it, and all this gasoline like hit the wood, but splashed out of the fire onto one of the chairs a girl was sitting on,
Oh,
and she
nice.
fell backwards out of it. Like she panicked, fell backwards out of it. The entire chair went up in flames and melted.
Oh, jeez.
And she was sitting like, and she was pissed, obviously, at him. But like, this is the level of stupidity that was happening. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna start a fire. Somebody's gonna end up dead. I'm going home. And I'm like, and it's nighttime. It's pitch black. We have steep canyon walls, so not much light was getting in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm just gonna walk down the canyon. I started walking. I actually started jogging. Like I could just barely even see like the line in the road on the side of the road. I was just going. I'm like, well, I'll just keep following this road, and
Yeah.
then I'm like, it's kind of stomping kind of loudly. I was aware like there could be animals, and what I learned from like going to Yellowstone is that you don't want to be quiet. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be as loud as you can, so they hear you coming from far, far away.
Yeah.
So I was being loud, stomping down the road, and then something up ahead of me. It was probably, if I had to guess, it was about 30 yards.
Okay.
Um, so it wasn't super far, but like it clearly, I heard like a branch in the tree go like snap, and then like this thing fall out of the tree, land on the pavement. I could almost see a shadow, but it was like low to the ground and big,
Mm-hmm.
and I could hear its claws scraping as it was trying to like run on the
Mm-hmm.
pavement and then run off to the other side of the road and up the mountain. I'm like, that was some sort of mountain lion or bobcat or something that I just startled
Had to have been.
awake.
Had
And
to have been.
like it really did have like a split decision, like either come after me or run. And what I
Yeah.
was thinking was like, just keep running. Because I didn't want to like, I don't know why my instinct was that to like not change anything about my pace or behavior, but like just stay in my cadence, just keep running towards it, pretend like this is normal. I think that's really what went into my head. It's like the
Uh-huh.
sort of a spy thing where like if you're going somewhere you don't belong, just pretend like you belong there and
Just
like everything's fine.
confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, just confidence. Like this is fine. This happens in nature all the time. We're cool.
This is just another thing in nature. Just try to trick the cougar into thinking, "Yeah, this is normal. Don't worry about it."
Yeah, there's normal, bro. Don't worry. So showing
It
part of it was
worked.
like so showing it that it didn't spook me. I think was
Oh.
important too. Like a lot of these
Oh,
things sort of
okay.
went through my head like lightning fast. Was like, okay,
Yeah.
don't want to show that it spooked me. Want to pretend like I just belong here. This is normal, and it just took off the other side. And I was very very lucky. I think that could have gone another way real easy.
Yeah, probably. That was a very kind of 50-50 scenario where if you were closer, it might have chose to try to defend itself.
Yeah,
But you making the noise thing is like a very real thing that actually really does help. Because it's like either way, if it's close enough to where it's going to hear your noise, it's going to hear and see you either way, either last minute as you're right next to it or beforehand. So if it's in the mood to hunt and kill you, either way it's going to come after you. But if it's doesn't want any problems at the moment, doesn't want to like deal with something else or whatever, then you give it plenty of time to wander off or do something else.
Yeah.
Which is why you always see those bear bells on like hikers and stuff like that. But
so I guess that for me, that Yellowstone video really paid off. It's a really good lesson of
yeah.
this is like telling you that when you're walking around, make sure you clap every now and then and go, "Hey bear, hey bear." It's a really silly video.
Yeah. But teaching a real lesson, but yeah, very ridiculous. And it's funny to imagine a bunch of white people walking around the woods just like
Yeah.
doing that.
Hey bear, what kind of cult is this?
What is wrong with those people?
So you mentioned something interesting in your story though about
Okay.
and I experienced this a lot growing up, was like I wasn't allowed to participate in those huge slumber parties, right?
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
me telling my mom that this was an important friend event and this was important to me to make friends. I wasn't that clear over the phone because they were all listening,
Yeah.
right? But I'm like, Mom, come on,
Come on, be cool.
be cool with all my friends. And she's like, "No, just come home." Nope. Like completely oblivious to like, because I get it as an adult. They're like,
Yeah.
slumber parties are big problems. Like kids get
Mhm.
together, they do stupid stuff. So it's like, okay, do I let my kid be there? They might end up breaking the law at some point and just doing something stupid. Or the other hand, this is a really good chance for him to make some friends and be
Yeah.
social. And my mom was always on the side of, no, you just come home.
Yeah, if it was a big group slumber party, that's how mine was too. It was just an immediate no. But if it was like with a close friend who I knew well and she knew their parents well, then I usually could. And so like those more like 3 people max sleepovers at like a known person's house, then I was able to.
Yeah.
Occasionally. But if it was like a big one, I think and I think part of the reason why I wasn't allowed to was because of my brother. Because he had a group of friends who did get into like a lot of mischief when they were just kind of left to their own devices. And I think she discovered more about it later in life, but she did discover like some of like the nonsense they would get into, and she just didn't want me having to like be tangled up in any of that just in case.
Yeah, in my neighborhood, there were a lot of kids even in my neighborhood that like they would get together, get into drugs, go out and steal stuff, vandalize properties.
Mhm.
And so she knew those kids and knew their parents and like was aware of those things happening. And
Yeah.
so from that perspective, I go, okay, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, it is a weird balance of like if I was the adult or parent, it's like what would I that would seems like such a hard choice of like, well, it's a good like growing experience and like fitting in experience, I think. Like yours was like the opportunity to make more friends and meet more people or
Right.
just experiencing that thing in life that people talk about in like movies and TV shows or whatever, the like
Yeah.
staying up late with your friend playing games or
Right.
causing some kind of mischief. Do you deprive them of that completely and not let them learn or experience that, or because yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah. So and like even as a kid, even now I'm like, well, and I don't have kids,
Yeah.
but I feel like if I did have kids, my opinion would probably change. But just thinking about it, and theoretically, I would probably be on the side of, um, well, go for it. If you get in trouble, you're gonna learn a hard lesson. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of that probably is dependent on how smart I think the kid is.
Fair. Yeah.
Is like, did I bother to teach them this? Did I do I know that they know to say no to drugs? Like, do I have confidence in
Yeah.
their ability to be like, slightly the what's the phrase? The voice of reason.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Or did
and
you at least teach them to like if things get bad enough to like call you to come get them.
Right. And I think my mom was in the right. She made the right choice because as a child, I was a savage. I was a little wild savage monster.
Yeah.
Um, and but 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 I know that I would have made the right choice, right? She doesn't know that. All of my
Yeah.
behavior exhibits that like I make poor decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so like even later on, like in high school, when we would go out to do stupid stuff with high school friends, for example, going out into the main road with that's like a big steep hill and rolling a bowling ball down it.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
I got to be the voice of reason there going, guys, this sounds like fun. Sure, the momentum of the ball spinning might explode before it hits somebody's house and goes through somebody's window, maybe. Sure, some bricks might, but with the probability that it could go through somebody's window and do real damage, something we'd have to pay for, I'm not up to that risk. Let's
Yeah.
not do this. Like having to
Yeah.
say that to my friends was never anything I would have expected. They told me like, "Wow, we must be really stupid if OJ's being the voice of reason. This must be
Oh
a really
no.
dumb idea." But
If OJ says not to do it, better not do it.
right. Yeah. And there's like a couple moments like that in my life where thinking back to it, I'm like, it could have changed my life for the better if I got to make those friends.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me like begrudged my parents for not letting me do that because it's like, you don't understand. I
Yeah.
was struggling to find good friends, and these were actually good kids. And I knew I was be doing the right choice, but like, there's nothing I could say to convince my parents otherwise. So
Yeah.
it's like I guess I don't blame them because I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I know that that was really important for me to participate in, but I didn't get to.
Yeah. No, I feel you there.
So that was, uh, yeah, good old childhood experiences.
Yay for trauma and childhood experiences.
But now we're adults, right? And everything's better.
I think that's how it's supposed to work. I don't think I got any better at that part. Being social and figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
But oh well.
Well, so as far as getting scared, though, someone
Mm-hmm.
had brought up something to me that I want to go try. That they're out in Tooele. There's
Okay.
this place. It's called like Asylum. Shoot, I forget what it's called. It's like Asylum 51. Tooele. Asylum 49.
Okay.
Jacob. So it used to be like a care center for elderly people. Jacob even said he had worked there for a little bit while it was open as that. And he said that he
Okay.
experienced some creepy events, but it's closed down now. And now it's just like a spook house.
Mm-hmm.
You could go and do a tour. I really, really want to go there and try it.
Is it just like a scary place tour, or is it one of the like scare places?
It's like, I think there's a little bit of both. From what I've heard, there's like a couple packages you could do. So one of them is like legit. You go in there and they like show you real haunted things. Like they give you like the little whatever meter thing, and like
Mm-hmm.
you try to do like little experiments to see real ghosts. And then there's another house where it's like another part that's like a haunted house, where like there's actors and they're paid to jump out and scare you. And part of it is you can sign an agreement where they're allowed to touch you
My sister went
and
and did this.
drag you into another room. And I want to do that so bad.
My sister said they drug one of her friends into a room and really freaked her out.
Oh,
Because she was one of the people that signed the waiver, and like apparently it really freaked her out. They're they can get really freaky and scary. I've heard.
I
I
want to
heard
do
it's
that
worth
so
it if
bad.
you really like that stuff.
I think I've had this desperation for being scared for quite a little while now. And
You gotta
like,
go do that.
I need something like this. And I
I think
might
it'd be
drag
worth
you
it.
along.
No, I'd rather die. I do not do scary things. I don't like scary movies. I just, yeah, I don't like the feeling of being freaked out. And I always thought I would eventually, because you know how when you're younger, like you typically don't like spicy or X food, and it's one of
Oh,
those things that almost everybody grows into eventually, at least a little bit.
yeah.
I always figured like scary stuff would be one of those things. Nah, not at all for me at all. Maybe I just haven't grown up yet, which I guess is a real possibility. But oh man, I
I
can't.
hated pickles as a kid. I couldn't stand them. And now like going to McDonald's, I was like, why would they put something so gross on something so delicious?
Yeah, yeah.
And you'd always take them off. But now it's like, I
Give me
need that.
more.
Like, I want to go get the McDonald's hamburger because of the pickles that they put on them. And just the
Mhm.
mixture of flavor there. I love those McDonald's hamburgers now.
Yep, exactly like that. I can't. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I just get so much anxiety over it, but I just do not like that feeling. So you will be going to that by yourself. I'd have to be tied up and drugged there. Could
Or
not do it.
um the podcast community would have to really make a significant donation.
It'd have to be extremely significant. But yes, even
to...
watching other like videos of other people doing it where I'm not the one participating in any way, I'm like, not watching that.
So what about games like Phasmophobia?
I don't
Uh,
play any of those games.
you don't?
No.
We should try it.
Like I feel like I would get so, especially if I have my setup properly where like I turn off all the lights and I'm really just kind of like really focused into the screen. I'd be See, when I get scared, I just start swearing. It's just nothing but the F word coming out of my mouth, just like upset at everything, looking all over the place, and I'm just like freaked out, like back into the corner. Because I've like accidentally played scary games before. Like I didn't realize they were freaky, and I think to most people they wouldn't be freaky, but they're just kind of like thriller enough, you know, like the thriller type of scary, where it's more
Yeah,
suspenseful more than anything.
like the Lethal Company one that's recently come out. It's like I don't think it's
Yeah.
specifically scary, like, but it turns out it is
Yeah,
for those
like
who
that
play it.
like, if I played that, I would just be like something scary happens, I just in the corner, just like just just swearing and mad at everything and just it's bad.
So what about like now I'm really curious about the games we've played. So what about like 7 Days to Die? Is that one Oh, we've played 7 Days to Die. Wait, I've been in there with you where we've locked ourselves in a closet
And I'm just sitting there swearing,
and you're
getting
legitimately panicking.
yeah,
And I'm like, this is fun to play around and pretend like we're scared.
and I'm trying to get out of there.
Wait, but you're actually scared.
Yeah, like, it doesn't happen often in that game. It's enough of a,
Right.
like, survival, the zombies aren't actually scary type of game where I'm like, "Yeah, I'll play that." But there's moments where you're, like, trapped in a house.
It's turned into more survival, but near the beginning,
Oh, at the
it was
beginning?
terrifying.
Holy hell. I think I got peer pressured into playing that game with all you guys because it was really a sneak around. You hear a zombie sound and you need to be freaking out a little bit.
Yeah, you need to be terrified if there's a zombie. Whereas now it's like zombies or ever, they almost don't even mean anything anymore.
Why? Because I remember the first time we got together, because the first time we played that, we like essentially, for those who obviously weren't playing with us, we all like eventually found each other and we found a spot next to like a little pond or lake and we started building up our bases to survive the seventh day. And I think on the seventh day, it was obviously we all freaked out, and I think one of our houses survived. And so we started modeling off of like some of the defenses that person did or whatever. But like
Right.
after that seventh day, we were like, okay, we need more resources. And I think we did like our first like expedition out into the city where they had like the tall abandoned buildings all over the place, and it was it was so freaky because we were like trying to ninja our way into like a building at all, and it was very much so like you watch like the first season of like The Walking Dead or like a show like that where they are
They're in Atlantic
there's
City.
like someone on on like watch at like the door of the place they're raiding, and like everyone else is like as fast as they can going through cupboards and like stuffing their pockets full like the food and supplies. It was literally like that
It
floor
was
to
exactly
floor.
like that.
Like
Yeah.
we had someone like on watch at the door, like with the sledgehammer, waiting for any kind of a zombie, and everyone else was just like scrambling. I'm like, okay, do you have this food so we can like stack so we can like get as much as we can? It was, it was, it was that was a fun one, but very freaky when we like there because I think at one point we got separated, and I don't remember
Yeah.
who I was with, but
And
I
it
was
was
like
at
in a
night.
closet.
I remember you and I were at least there. I don't remember if
Yeah.
Jacob was there also. But like we were like literally shut the door of a closet. We squat down so we're hiding and we're like not
Yes.
making any sounds. We're like waiting for it to become daylight again.
And you can like just hear the zombie sounds all over. And it used to be you had the little eyeball in the center of your screen when you're crouched, and if the
Yeah.
eyeball opened, that means a zombie could see you.
Yeah.
And
They
so
could like sense you.
so
And
you'd
this is
just be
around the
sitting
time where
there.
you couldn't have meat on you or they could smell your meat. So we are all like,
Yeah.
what's in your inventory? Check if you have corn or meat. And you
Oh,
had to like you had to go drop it because they could smell it if you're carrying it.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah,
Uh,
that one was a little freaky. That's like the borderline for me on playing scary games is stuff like that. Where to most people it's not that scary. It's more just kind of fun suspense. But I'm just sitting there scared shitless.
that's good to know. This is good information.
Like I don't like I had someone the other day trying to convince me to play FNAF Five Nights at Freddy's,
Oh yeah,
and I'm
I want to
like,
play it.
absolutely not. Those jump scares they'd be getting me so bad.
I
I'm
did play
sure
the first
eventually I'd
one.
become desensitized and get through it, but
Maybe
no.
it's high anxiety. It really plays off the anxiety part of
Hmm.
fear pretty heavily. I played it once, the first one, like back when it first came out, and then like
Yeah.
it was just like checking the doors and checking everything. It's like you don't know where it's gonna come from, so like your anxiety's like already like to the max. Like I don't know. Did I check that one? When was the last time I checked this place? And then suddenly it's just there, and then the jump scare when you have your
Yeah.
anxiety level so high, it's just like it was. They had a really good formula. They
They
have a really
did.
good formula for it. It's pretty so. I want to try more of them, but I'm not as big of a fan as the jump scares, to be honest. That's not the kind of terror I'm into. Mine is more like what we experienced with like 7 Days to Die, where like you're in the closet and you're just literally just terrified for your life. And
Yeah.
like that feeling of like having to walk home from my friend's house. It's not like a jump scare I'm afraid of. It's like I'm gonna die.
Yeah. You might like the latest Five Nights at Freddy's then, because it was less jump scares and more that.
Oh, okay.
So you might like the latest one where it was more you're walking around in the
Oh,
arcade place, going through the different sections and trying to get out. You might like that one. You ought to try it out.
I'll try that one out. Okay, that's
Yeah.
good to know.
It's very much so less. There's probably still jump scares, but it was way more suspense and trying to like sneak around and get past the scary thing. Like I think one of the levels is the classic like what's the right word for it? Like ball pit, jungle gym kind of place where you have like the different bars and like tunnels and you're trying to go up in like the different stories and like go through the different like a McDonald's
Okay.
play place.
Yeah. No, I've been to Chuck E. Cheese, like at Chuck E. Cheese or the Discovery Zone.
Yeah, so it's like a big one of those and you're going in and out of one of those to like activate things but there's like a thing wandering around outside. So like you have the different buildings and you're trying to like go up one, find stuff and then like sneak out to get to the next one and there's like a thing hunting you essentially while you're trying to do that.
Yeah, that might be fun. I'll put that one on my list.
Yeah.
I just bought a game and installed it this morning. It's not a scary game,
Mhm.
but it's one, and maybe no, I don't remember. Where's Steam? Oh, Undertale.
Oh,
Have
I've
you?
heard of that one.
Yeah, like I hear about it a lot. Like everyone's like, "Oh, it's this classic." Like I guess it was significant for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And it's like one of those must plays. So
Isn't it a
it-
platform puzzle?
it's like it looks more like just like an old school pixel RPG top down.
Oh,
walk through,
okay.
talk to people.
Hmm.
That's all I know, and that people love it. So
Yeah, I've heard it referenced all the time as like being a classic must play, so to speak.
yeah, so I'm gonna give that one a shot. Is there any other games on your radar or that you've tried recently, last week or?
Let's see here. Has there been anything? I'm not sure there's been any big ones on my. I have been semi convinced to try out Final Fantasy 14 as like a because I've tried a couple MMOs and I'm
Wait.
not,
Hmm.
but I'm not willing to like pay the subscription to like try out the classic version of like a classic MMO that's like World of Warcraft style, and all the other ones that I've tried that are not free but at least a one time payment I haven't been able to stick with things like Guild Wars and things like
Yeah.
that. And so I've been trying out Final Fantasy, and so far I tried it a little bit, and so far I've liked it. I'll see if I stay hooked to it, but I've heard good things about it, and the free trial before you have to pay or anything is actually quite big. And so I don't
Oh,
know. That's the closest thing. That's the biggest thing that's been on my radar lately. Actually, let me open Steam and see if
I played Final Fantasy
there's
14
been
for a little
anything.
while. I wonder if it even has. Oh, I have 94 hours in it.
There you go. That's quite a
Like
bit.
I played it quite a bit. Um, and it was fun. I think the only reason I stopped was because it started to get to a point where, um, uh, see, I had paid my way. You could just buy in like all the
Mm-hmm.
levels, and I just straight out just bought
Power
uh
levels your way up.
power level, yeah, to the in game. And it gives you like a pack of in game gear and stuff. So like, I was really just diving into the in game dungeons and just learning it and going through those with people, and it was fun. The community's actually really nice and insanely
Mm-hmm.
friendly and helpful with all of that. So like, all the good things you hear about it are true.
Yeah.
I am trying to remember why I stopped. I think it got to a point where like the next gear that I wanted was so hard to get that
Mm.
like I was like, there's no way I could do this in a lifetime.
Yeah, without like that being your only game.
Yeah. So it did start to sort of get to that point where I was like, oh, uh,
Yeah.
the gear and the stuff I want, I just can't. So I would just be playing it for the gameplay, and it was very, very much just a normal MMO. And so it wasn't terrible. It was really
Mm-hmm.
well done, but it just I wasn't playing with anybody that I knew. I think that's. I bet if I was playing with anyone I knew, I probably would have played it for a long longer.
Mm. Fair. Yeah, and I'm just kind of playing it casually because I already have too many games that require a lot of grinding. And so I'm not like trying to make this like my new main game by any means. Because I already got like Destiny 2 and World of Tanks. Those are just by themselves two big grinding games.
I admire the ability to stick with a single game. Our group is not good at that.
I've been trying to do it more. Like I used to jump on with you guys anytime you guys switched games just
Uh,
for the sake of jumping on. And like to be honest, 50 to 90% of the time, it was a game that I was just like, eh. I mean, I was kind of interested in, but never interested enough to just like hop into it on my own. And so I'd
right,
always kind of just be half playing it anyways, just to be playing with you guys.
right. Well,
And I,
like last week, Jacob was like, "Let's try Path of Exile again," which I played plenty,
mhm.
and it's not bad. I'm like, fine. I'll half-heartedly. I've been building another character. I'm already at level like 50. But like, and then this morning, he's not playing Path of Exile. He's on this other Pokemon type game. I'm like,
Mhm.
there's this, him and Matt both jump from game to game so fast, and I do it too sometimes. I'm guilty also. That where I'll
I
just
think
find
all
a
of
new
us in
game
our
like
group are guilty of that to a degree.
where it's almost like if it's not every single week, it's at least once a month. There's a new game.
Mhm.
But this
Yeah.
Pokemon game. Now I haven't seen anything about it until this morning. It's not Pokemon. What's it called?
Something pal.
Pal World.
Yeah,
Now, have you seen things about it like yesterday and today?
a little bit here and there the past couple days of like people playing it and basically equating it to the real world version of Pokemon. Basically, Pokemon without all the ethical rules that Pokemon seems to like put in place for everything.
Mm.
Of like,
Pokemon just pass out.
they just pass out. We definitely don't eat the Pokemon. Oh, you only capture the Pokemon.
Some of the episodes of season 1, like they literally eat what's it called? Not Goldeen. The stupidest fish Pokemon one. I forget what his name is. But they literally cook him up and just eat him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess they do eat some of the Pokemon in the game, but like for the most part, it's like another human that you, like, I don't know,
They've
and it's
humanized
totally
them a lot.
humanized them a lot and made the fact that you've forcibly trapped them and take them out of nature not against their will in the game, and
It's like
everything's
they've
just totally
chosen
fine
it
with it.
somehow.
Yeah, but like Pal World, very much so, is like, no, you've captured this thing and it's now doing your will. And like you can walk up to another human and just like capture the human.
Wait, you can capture other humans in the game?
Yeah. At least from what I've seen.
I didn't see that
I've
part.
only captured a handful of clips, but like from what I saw, someone was just like, I wonder if I can capture this person, and through their like capture device, and now they owned that human. Or like they came across like a Pokemon
What?
like stabbing at like a dead human that was just like on the ground, basically like looked like it was eating him.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if it was actually eating it, but the way everything was combined, it looked like it was trying to like eat it. It is very much so just like an unhinged version of Pokemon where like you can try to capture anything and they're just like doing your work for you, and it's
Wow.
just kind of really funny unhinged Pokemon.
Okay. My first impression watching Jibo play it was that like it looks like the Pokemon that we've been asking for as a community. Like
Oh, okay.
like a Skyrim style Pokemon where the Pokemon battle in real time and things like that. And they've kind of
Mm,
half-assed slowly got made some weird like full world exploration ones, but like anytime you battle, you go into a very set
controlled
turn-based
environment. Yeah.
controlled battle, which is like that's not what we want. We want to play a game where they're battling in real time. And the community's been asking for this forever, and they just have not delivered. But this one, that
It
looks
actually
like
does
that's what's
that.
happening.
Oh, cool. That
That's
would
what
be
it
really
looked
cool.
like. Is like you just summon your Pokemon, you say go attack this thing, and they just start fighting in real time, and then you fight alongside it. You get your bow out, and you start attacking with them, and
There you go.
it
I
looks
always did
sick.
think it would be cool because you see in the cartoon of like them having to like do reactions of like do quick attack to quickly dodge and like almost like real time action type
Yeah.
responses. And I think that would be fun in some kind of Pokemon game where you're trying to do real time actions of like defending or attacking or
If they want this game to
something.
last, here's what I think has to happen. And I don't know if this is already a thing,
Okay.
but since they're trying to key into this more realistic Pokemon thing, you have to give the player the ability to play as the Pokemon. So you have to give them the ability to, when they summon whatever vicious rabbit, they can go in and actually act as the rabbit, and they get the whole ability skills down there. And so they jump back and forth. They can quick dodge. They can roll as the creature, and then do their quick attacks and stuff, and literally play in real time as the animal.
That would be interesting. I feel like that would be a big feature of the game that I feel like would
Yeah,
already have to be a part of it.
yeah, probably.
But I don't know. Maybe they have plans to do something like that. That would be pretty cool.
But that's the game I've been waiting for, as the ability to play as the Pokemon. That's what I've
Hmm.
secretly always wanted. Was like, because the turn-based thing, like giving them commands, like, "Hey, do this attack now." It's sort of like that's weird. Like the Pokemon should have its own will. It's the one fighting. In what other sort of
Yeah.
combat is someone only executing a punch when someone tells them to punch? Like
Yeah.
you want to be
True.
the thing fighting and just doing it from its perspective. That's how I've felt a lot of time, and I've been waiting for that game. So I just
Yeah,
hope that maybe someone makes a mod for it where you could do that. That would probably be impossible
that'd
as a
be a
mod.
that'd be a Skyrim level mod,
Yeah.
or it's practically changing the game. But maybe that would be cool. Yeah, I always imagined that eventually Pokemon would try to do something because I always imagined the callouts from the trainers was more of like the big moves, so to speak. So like the
Right.
Pokemon are like doing their like regular scrap fighting of like biting, scratching, hitting each other kind of a thing, and trying to dodge, and then you'd call out these bigger attacks. Like
Mm.
Pikachu's the
Solar
first one
beam
to come to
attack.
like Pikachu's the first one that comes to mind. Like doing the Thunderbolt, like a really big Thunderbolt. You like call out when a good time for your Pokemon to do that, and otherwise they're doing like their small like attacks back and forth. And I think it'd be fun to do the real time battling of that, where you like throw out your two Pokemon or creatures or whatever, and they're kind of doing their regular fighting and brawling, and then you're calling out like
Uh,
big high level moves or whatever,
I see.
But
That would make yeah, having it
I don't
that
know.
way too would be interesting. Where like it just sort of goes and you watch them taking turns. It's a slow enough pace to where like you could time it and go, okay, now do this thing.
Hmm.
There's some mobile games like that actually. A lot of like gotcha mobile games are a little bit like that, where like your characters have a super, and so like the AI, like they have their own little AI battle going, and like a
Hmm.
super comes up, and then you choose when to push it, and you can
Yeah,
choose when to like time it right.
yeah, yeah. Something similar to that, where you're just trying to time the big attacks to be the most effective, or something like that.
Yes,
I don't know. There's a lot they could do with this game if they.
it's true.
I'd be
They've
curious as
tapped
to know what
into
their roadmap is.
they've tapped into something that like tons of people have fantasizing about for a long time, like what they would do with the Pokemon franchise and where they'd take it, and like they're doing it. They're trying to do something with that. So
Yeah.
I hope they go somewhere. I hope they keep developing and like adding neat things and trying stuff like that.
Hmm.
I might have to try it. Dang it.
Or if not, give other companies the, I don't know, quote unquote courage to do other
Right.
games like this, you know? So I think a
Yes.
lot of people have been too intimidated by Pokemon to try to do too much similar.
I agree.
But with how well this one's doing, even just so far, I think might give other game studios, you know, a little bit of a boost of, oh, hey, this is possible without, either losing my right to my game because of Pokemon, or there's people
Right.
that
DMCA
enjoy
stuff.
another like version of Pokemon. Because I don't think Pokemon's ever going to go away from turn-based attacking. I think it's too a part of the core of their game, and the most that they're ever going to do to branch out from that is what they've already done. Because I think their latest game was kind of more open world, where you could like see the Pokemon walking around.
You could, and they could attack you as a person.
Yeah, and I think that's the closest you'll get to it not to like straying away from the turn-based. Because the turn-based was still there, if I remember right, in that game.
Yeah. And then if you choose to engage with the Pokemon if they're attacking you, then you summon a Pokemon. Or you could sneak up on one out in the wild and throw your Pokeball at it, but it always ends up going into the turn-based situation.
Yeah, I don't think it'll. I just don't think it'll ever go away from that. I think that's too much core Pokemon for them to ever
Yeah, I wonder if it has to do
not
with
do
like
that.
it's tied to the card game too, that they want it to keep feeling like the card game.
Maybe, but I think it's also tied to the core mechanics that like everybody just, especially people who are super into Pokemon, just know by heart at this point. Of like the
Hmm,
way the different like role mechanics happen, and um
I
the different
see.
strategies that people are pulling from like older games, because you have the whole Nuzlocke community and stuff like that who really know like the core mechanics of the game, of like getting a team through a fight.
Oh,
um and I think there's just a lot of people that know that like those core strategies of getting through this style of turn-based combat, that they are probably too scared to get too far away from because of that.
gotcha. They're sort of locked in then, from what you're saying. It sounds like
I
they are
think
locked in
so.
because of the community.
I think
And so it
so.
would require another game to come out to sort of break some of those walls.
I think it would have to come out as if Pokemon was gonna do it. I think it would have to come out as a side game, not a main game, because they got a ton of side games that have happened over the years, like Pokemon Snap and stuff like
Snap.
that. Which
Yeah.
I loved the Nintendo 64 version of that as a kid. Loved that game.
Man.
But like it would have to. I don't feel like it would have to be something like that where it's like, don't worry, this isn't our main game. Our main game is still on its schedule to come out whenever. But here's a little side venture thing
That makes
to
sense.
experiment with because they've done that a lot. I don't think they've done that a lot in the recent years. Like there was one for the DS, which was crazy. The whole mechanic for catching, because remember the DS had the two screens. You had like
Yes.
the main viewing one, then you had the touch screen with the stylus.
Hmm.
And the mechanic for catching, it's such a stupid concept. It's such a stupid game, but it's so funny. Jaden Animations. You may have heard of Jaden Animations.
It sounds, yeah.
Pretty big animation person on YouTube, or one of the big juggernauts of animation. She like does animations of her experiences playing through games sometimes. And one
Oh,
of them was this game. It's a Pokemon game where the mechanic is you're doing, I think, friendship or like love loops around the Pokemon to like make it your friend. And so you take your stylus and you're just drawing loops around the Pokemon on the screen until you capture it. And that's like the capturing mechanic. You have like this
what?
lasso loop device in the game, but you're like using your stylus to just like draw circles around the Pokemon fast enough, I guess. But like just the fact that that like concept exists as like the mechanic for like capturing and interacting with Pokemon in the game means that they're willing to like do experiments, but only on like these like offshoot versions of the game.
Mm,
You know, so
right.
it's possible they'll still do something, but I don't know. I think the core one
Wow.
will always be the same.
This circle. Well, it reminds me of Pokemon Go. Like the way you capture Pokemon, it's like all
Oh
about
yeah,
how
yeah.
you sort of you can spin the ball and like where you hit them. If you get a headshot with the ball, it's more likely you catch it. And like
Hmm.
so many little things about how you throw your ball. I don't
Yeah,
know if it's still that way, but that's how it was.
yeah.
But that was fun. I like that. I came up with a really good technique of just like you swirl the ball around to get it start spinning, and then you flip it, and then it starts spinning really fast, and like you can arc it straight towards the head. I got really good at it.
Sounds like it. I never actually played that game. I never got
It's
pulled into that hype.
pretty fun. I should try it again. Should pull it out.
Requires
And
too much going outside and doing things and interacting.
there
Or
was. I
my
remember I
style.
walking around like when it's like heyday where everyone was outside walking around and
Hmm.
like just meeting some guys on a corner of the street and being like, we're all just sitting there trying to catch like some stuff, and they're like, one of them gets a text saying, "Hey, there's a bunch of haunters up at the cemetery," and they're like, "Let's go." Hey, you want to come? I'm like, sure, I'll come with you. So I get in the stranger's car, try with them up to the cemetery so we can go catch a bunch of haunters.
Nice.
And like, it really was crazy. Like getting people out of the house, walking around, meeting strangers on the street corner, and just talking about Pokemon. It was insane.
Yeah. It was
Ugh.
it was
I don't
definitely a
know if
new
we'll
concept
ever
that did
see
a lot of
anything
stuff.
like that again. Like it was
Probably
timed
not.
perfectly. Everyone was just so into it, and it was so hyped up that like it got like you could see people walking down the street with their phones, and you knew they were like playing Pokemon Go.
Mhm.
And like I remember going down to there's a some rare water Pokemon. I think it was like a Dratini or something like that. It
Mhm.
evolves to the Dragonite. And like the only way to get it here in Utah was go downtown. There's this one park that a river runs through it, and you have to go to this specific part. I remember it was packed. There was so many people in here just fishing and just trying to catch Dratini. It was insane. Oh
Yeah, there were a lot of geo-locked Pokemon. Like I remember
yeah.
hearing people like who would travel to another country and it's like you can only get this Pokemon like in this country. And so like they found out their like friend was traveling to this place, and so everyone would like send their like login information for their account to that friend, so that person would go to that place and like on like 6 different accounts try to catch this Pokemon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff like that.
Well, And that started to break some walls of like whether or not it was like augmented reality or virtual reality, because you could like you literally saw it, like you used your camera and you can see the Pokemon standing like in the real world,
Yeah, that
like
was
in
the
a
first
spot.
instance of like mainstream AR
Yeah.
is what it's called. That one's AR.
And so like I remember it triggered like this debate and a lot of conversations about like what is better, VR or AR? Which one's gonna dominate the
Yeah.
and I was always team AR. I still am team AR. I feel like augmented reality, I really like that idea of building games that sort of fit into the world that you're in.
Hmm.
I love that idea, but I know that VR is really kind of taken over.
I think for games, VR is going to dominate, and for everything else, AR is. For just like regular consumer based technology, AR is going to be eventually really big.
That's a
Um,
good way to put it.
and then, but gaming, I think, is going to stay dominantly VR,
That makes sense, actually.
just because you can only do so much with what most people have as a gaming space doing AR. Um,
That's true.
besides having like maybe like a small little creature you're interacting with, or like kind of more like a pet game where you have like a fake dog that you're is jumping around in your space and is actually on your couch and you can kind of interact with. Unless it's like a game like Pokemon Go where you're like actually walking around in like a neighborhood and interacting with stuff as it like pops out on the sidewalk or something. I could see another like way more AR focused Pokemon Go type of thing happening. Maybe AR.
Yes. And there's been a few attempts at that. Like I've seen like alien ones. I forgot what it was called. But yeah, I see what you're saying. That makes sense. VR is really a lot better at like video games are however you said it was the best way to say it.
Nailed
I'm
it.
done.
Fair enough. Yeah,
I
the amount you can do
concur.
with a virtual space inside of your small space that you can play in, there's just way more potential. And I think the major roadblock of how to maneuver a person based on how much tech they have for their setup, I think has improved a lot for people who are way more motion sick prone and stuff like that. I think I think it's come a long way to where I don't think it'll do what a lot of people were scared of at one point, where gaming is all going to go to virtual reality. I don't think
Hmm,
it'll ever do that. Not unless there's
hmm,
like some big technology jump that we obviously can't predict. But
right.
I think it'll I think it's getting ready to become a bigger space. I think
Yeah.
we've I think we've been sitting in a development like waiting time long enough where
Sure.
things have kind of like worked, where enough companies have had enough time to cook some stuff up to where we might start seeing stuff in like the next 5 years
Yeah.
to where
I'm
it'll start
very
getting bigger.
close to buying one. With looking at them all, I prefer the Quest,
Hmm.
Oculus Quest, because it doesn't use the sensors on the wall. Like it's all the hardware is just what you're wearing.
Hmm.
Which to me, that's like that makes so much more sense. That sounds like it's so easy, very portable. You could do it anywhere. Whereas the other ones, I forget what it was. Was it the Vive? I think that's the one for Steam, where like you have
Yeah.
to like set things up on tripods and like triangulate them, or like have four of them or whatever around the room, so it created what your boundaries were.
Depends on what you're using it for, in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you're trying to go more for the actual motion tracking of you as a person in
Oh,
VR, then the Vive one I think is way better. Um, but if you're more going for just kind of like head movement inside the game with like some controller support, but it doesn't really matter where your hand is in the space that you're interacting with to a certain degree, then Quest is the stronger choice in my opinion. But
I want to get my hands on some of them and like try them out and see which what I really like the
So
best.
do I. I think it'd be fun to at least try it with how weird VR chat can of a place it can be. I do want to try it just to see what it's like to be in like a virtual space and try to interact with other people, just so I can
Yeah,
say that I've done that, you know?
yeah. Just
But
so you
then
could
there
say that you've
are,
talked to someone.
yeah, or just like experienced what that social
The clips
thing
I've
that
seen though about
exists.
VR chat, those are like off the hook ridiculous.
I
What
think
goes
there's,
on in there?
from what I've heard from other people, it's not as hard as it looks to avoid the really crazy places.
Oh, you can just
Like
avoid
there's
them.
like there's some really normal places to go.
Oh,
But like obviously the crazy places are the places that end up in clips on the internet. And they're all over the place, but apparently it's a lot easier to avoid those than people think. So I'm hopeful.
there was one, and this just sticks in my head for some reason. Whenever anyone talks about the VR chat, this is what I think about. This
Hmm.
guy, he's just the clip's pretty short. He just like walks into a room and there's a bunch of babies, and one of the babies walks up to him with like his hands held up, and it's somebody. It's somebody on the other end. They go, "Will you be my dad?" And like starts climbing up onto him and
Oh
like, "Will you
god.
hold me?" And it's like some sort of weird kinky, I don't know what, but
Yeah.
someone wants to role play as being a baby and have someone
Yeah.
else role play as being the parent. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. And the guy's like, no, 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 no. And like, and everyone, and like all the babies in the room turn around and go, will you be our dad? Like, you're like,
Oh
yeah, be our
god.
dad. And start walking towards him. And he's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, it's a place that can house a lot of kinky fetishy things really easily, which is why I'm hopeful that this person is right, that it's actually, especially nowadays, way easier to avoid those kind of places. And like, obviously, if you want to find them, you'll find them
You can
easily.
find him.
But I think it's easier to avoid those and be in a more normal kind of a social place. I don't know, but there's also just lots of games that I want to try. Being able to add the head movement of the game with just actually my
Oh,
head.
that's true. I remember playing some sort of RPG. I was on using Matt's Vive, and like I was an archer, but like people were shooting arrows, and like I could literally just move my head like this, and like it was like I was in the Matrix, like actually
Hmm.
dodging shots at me. Like my physical movement mattered. It was just really cool. I want to try that again.
Yeah. I also really, if I ever get one, I'm absolutely going to be hopping back into Elite Dangerous, the space
Ooh.
game, just to try it out because the biggest roadblock for me in that
Oh,
game was how hard it was to do all the like the difficult controls while
yeah.
doing like the head movement to like check to the side of the ship as you're like trying to find what you were chasing. And I just saw so many people who were playing that game with like VR headsets having like a time of their life with it because it was like they because it's very much so a game where you're in one spot in like a cockpit and it
It's
just works like
true.
that. So you just need the headset and
Ooh.
it looked so much fun. Like the space battles and dogfightings looked so much fun with the VR headset that I was like, because it's like a really well laid out UI inside the ship. To where like if you're
Yeah.
holding the controls to like look around, it's actually really useful to like see the different displays and stuff like that, and be able to like look around and like try to find the ship you're chasing. And I was
That's
like, I
true.
want to try that so bad.
That was such a fun game. But I think I
So
got
much
to the
fun.
point, and hopefully they've added more to it. But it got to the point where like the most dangerous thing was like a ship called the Anaconda, and like when it showed up, like it was terrifying. But then like I figured out how to like kite it and always be on its belly no matter what it was doing and just fire at its underside. So figuring out how to kill it, and it was the most dangerous thing. I was like, okay, I think did I win?
For me, it
I
was
know
it
there's
was the
more to it,
grind.
but
For me, it was the grind to get to the next ship. Like I got like my next ship, and I was like, oh, sweet. Okay, what is it? What is the next kind of ship I'm gonna be kind of like working towards? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's gonna take like another 300 hours of gameplay to get to that ship.
yeah,
And I was
I
just
don't think
like,
I got like the best ship, and I could have kept going, but like I got to a point where like I could do well enough to kill an anaconda on my own. I feel like, well, this is good enough for me.
yeah, yeah.
But I'd love to get into that again, yeah, and maybe the VR is the right way.
because I had fun bouncing back and forth between combat and like just like mundane, like almost mud runner type stuff where
Oh
you're
yeah,
just
there
going to
was
pick
other
up like
stuff.
cargo and mining and stuff like that, and like lining up your like cargo scoop with the thing you're trying to pick up really quick. Even the smuggling was fun, and so
That's true.
I had a lot of fun jumping between the jobs, but it was just like the grind to the next thing was just at the point where I dropped off was just huge. So I was just like, I ain't got time for that.
I got my joysticks. They're just on the shelf right next to me. I've never fully put them away. They're just right there calling at me, going, "Really dangerous, really
Yeah.
dangerous."
Yeah, I still have
They're
my
ready to go.
joystick. I'd be tempted to get a better joystick if I ever actually got a headset. So I could
Well,
like,
mine came with two. So I have the thruster joystick
yeah, that's
and the
something that I'd
actual
want.
joystick. It's so nice. It is so nice.
I just got the cheap Logitech kind of all in
Oh.
one
Mhm.
deal because I was like, I didn't at that point I didn't have the money to put into anything. I was lucky I had a computer.
That's right.
But
Well,
yeah,
yeah. All right. All right, listeners. Thank you.
successful podcast.
Well, a
Maybe.
podcast.
We'll let you decide.
We'll let you decide. Comment below. Uh, all right. The end.
Bye.